What is up, everyone? My name is Will. Today we're going to be diving in to the resources that are on some of the plots of the Otherside lands. We've got some that are rare, some that are very common, and then some that, only can be found on certain environments. So a lot, like at a surface level, some people may just totally gloss over resources, not give them a whole lot of thought, but there's actually a whole lot that should be brought into account when purchasing an other deed. Something like one tier of resource versus a land with no resource could be worth just the extra bit more that it may cost you when you're going to pick out a land. So let's go ahead and take a look. This is from the official Otherside page, otherside.xyz, and it says on each of the lands, there is a potential to have up to 4 replenishing resources that you'll be able to harvest and utilize. So, what does that mean? Harvest and utilize. This is in the light paper. It basically says when we're crafting and building and creating all of these different structures and stuff, we're going to be building stuff in the other side. Essentially, you'll have a template. Somehow, we don't know yet, but resources will be assigned to certain items in order to make them. And then, essentially you package that up and you have this manufacturing complete stage. So blueprint plus resources equals item. It's pretty simple. If you've ever played a game like Minecraft or something like that, you put sticks of wood in one area, stones in another area, and then you've made a pickaxe. I imagine it's a similar concept to that. But looking at the lands, we have some lands like this one, for instance, that has no resources on any of the north, south, east, west plots, and it also has no coda or artifact. I mean, you're literally just left with an environment, which in this case is sands, and the sediment that is underneath, which is Cosmic Dream. For instance, though, is all hope lost on this land? I don't think so. I think there will be some kind of hidden extra something to come out of these lands. I mean, obviously, it's already an environment itself, and it's still got a sediment, so surely we'll be able to do something. Maybe it's a open patch to do farming or something. I don't really know. I'm just guessing here. But we have some lands that have no resources, and then we've got other lands that have a resource on each 4 corners. And so you're like, okay, cool. Like, this clearly, to me, looks more appealing. It's got more potential, it seems, to yield you some resources that you can then sell inside the Otherside metaverse marketplace or whatever it is. It's like, when you're looking to buy Otherside lands, you don't want to just randomly choose one that's the cheapest when you could maybe spend a little bit more and pick up some resources or a different sediment or a different, tiered environment. So let's dive into rarity for resources, because that's a big question mark. Are these 4 resources that we're looking at right here, are these super rare? Are they super common? What are we working with? And so some resources can only be found on a certain environment. So Bone has its own set of resources that are only found on Bone environment lands. Just from a quick glance, I'm going to say that that none of these are Bone. I'm going to say none of these resources belong to just Bone lands, except for maybe that top one. We'll take a quick look. The Petrified resource. We'll go ahead and open the other ones just to show you what I'm talking about here. But you go in. Okay, no. So I was correct. Petrified is available on any environment. So basically, here we have the Splinter environment with a Petrified resource, another Splinter with Petrified, Crimson with Petrified. So it's not tied just to that environment. So it's not as rare. It can show up anywhere. Same with this Nether, which I believe is this one in the southern point down at the bottom here. It shows up everywhere. Again, We go on to the next one, Lunarian. This one on the western side shows up on many different types of lands. Again, Luster, the other resource that was on that land, it's this rocky looking one on the eastern side. It can show up anywhere. So let me give you an example of a resource that only shows up on a certain type of land. The most rare that comes to mind is the dimensional resource. We'll open up a couple of these on the different plots. But essentially, it's this block-looking thing. I don't have something good to point it out. I don't know if you can see this, but it's the block in the northern corner there. Here's another one, northern corner, but this one is a higher tier resource, right? So obviously that's going to produce more of that resource, but we just don't know exactly how much. Is it 3 times as much? Is it 30% as much? Does it just regenerate faster? We don't know yet, but obviously, if you can get something with a little bit higher rarity and a higher tier, it could be worth it. Now, I mean, when you're looking at this extreme case, we're talking 23 ETH for a 1-tier dimensional on the northern side, and then a tier 3 is 26 ETH. Like, is that worth it? Instantly, my guess is probably not, because I do know that there's a cheaper dimensional on the market currently. It looks like we have a Eastern resource for 5 ETH. Yeah, but it's a one tier. So I don't know. That seems kind of interesting. Here's another one, 6.9. But the big switch up here is this is a four tier acid land. So 4-tier acid land with a 1-tier dimensional versus a 2-tier acid land. Again, is that worth the additional, 2 ETH there? Hard to say. It's very speculative. Resources are extremely speculative, but it kind of evens out a little bit towards the lower end of the market. When you're looking at a floor land for 1.25 ETH, if you scroll just a little bit, it's like, okay, well, maybe this one for 1.3 that actually has 3 resources on it, maybe that one, for instance, okay, so maybe this one would be better than buying this one that has nothing. So yeah, crazy still. We're looking at $2,000 for digital land. It's a lot. It's come down a lot since when it first sold out, but I mean, geez. So, to me, in this case, a tier 1 with no resources, this is kind of like a very generic, bland land for $2,000, 1.25 ETH, or you could spend an additional $131, 1.3 ETH, and you have a tier 3 jungle environment that also has quite a few tiers of resource. That seems... That would probably be the one I would lean towards. So yeah, I mean, there's just a bunch to look into when it comes to resources, and you can be looking at them for hours trying to figure out how to value these things, and it's really just quite difficult. One of the things I like to keep in mind when looking at resources is like, what is the level of liquidity? How many people truly are going to be coming in and targeting that particular resource? So like, for example, we were going into the first trip where we all got to experience the Otherside, run around the world for the very first time. There was a lot of excitement. A lot of people were buying lands and buying codas, artifacts, and different resources, right? So there was liquidity there. Like, if you had bought this dimensional resource for 5 ETH, let's see if I can pull it back up. If you had bought this dimensional resource for 5 ETH, like, you couldn't buy dimensional under 15 ETH at one point, especially leading into the first trip. So, there's a lot of market dynamics to keep in mind. This would very much be a long buy and hold for me. Like, you're not going to just turn around and flip it instantly. There's not that much liquidity right now on these more rare resources. But it'll come back at some point, and maybe it won't be at the same price, but at some point there will be liquidity that gets driven to these, I think. So another one that is only available on an acid land is the Galactica resource, which in my opinion is not quite as rare. It's a different type first. We didn't really get into types, but the Anema, Ore, Shard, and Root. Anema is more of the Galactica. Ore is the dimensional resource. And so, yeah, we have like this crazy land that has like 3 different plots of this Galactica resource. They're all 2 tiers. So, like, this person is going to be just generating a ton of Galactica when the time comes. It's also got a very cool artifact called an Anthony. But anyways, though, let's just like take a broader approach. Let's look at like resources as a whole. There's a few more things I'd like to touch on to maybe point out. So, we've covered that there's resources that only show up on certain lands, and those are very common, not worth paying a premium for, in my opinion. And then we have resources that only show up on certain environments. So, like, for example, this Abyssia would be one of them. This is a very helpful website. It's called the Otherside.wiki. You can click on their resources. It shows you the images of the different tiers, and it gives you a little bit of some facts about it. So this one says, Abyssia is native to only obsidian environments. So if you're wondering, is this resource that I'm looking for, is it rare? Is it only on a certain land? You could be shopping this land, for example, and you'd be like, oh man, Petrified or Nether is a tier 3 resource. Maybe I want to check if Nether is indeed a rare resource. And this one would maybe say, no, probably not. Nether is not native to any environment. It can appear on any environment type. Cool. And it also tells you how many instances of Nether there is. That's pretty interesting. I don't know if it does that for all of them. Does it do it? Yeah, okay. So it does show you how many different instances there is. So obviously, dimensional with 152, super rare. This Abyssia, 263, more rare than the Nether we were just looking at, but not quite as rare as. Sorry, I'm bouncing all over the place. I haven't really spent too much time with this, so it's not laid out exactly how I would structure it in my mind. But anyways, we have the rare resources that are only on certain environments. We've got the super common resources that are spread across all environments, and then there's like a little trick, or not a trick, a little exception to the rule, and that would be all of the resources that appear all of the resources that appear on void lands, or chaos. Sorry, let's see if I have this pulled up. So chaos is a special land. There's only 120 of them, I think, or something like that. We can go over here and take a look. Chaos, 111 chaos lands. And so on these chaos lands is 4 very rare resources, but they also have the weird exception of they can show up in certain other plots randomly. They don't have to just be on void, but they are very much the void resource category. So what do I mean by that? We've got Degradia, we've got Entropy on the left side here, Void on the bottom, and then there is another one called Omni. So Omni is this one in the bottom and the left. So if you go and you take a look at Void, for instance, let's see. Void can appear on any land, which makes it interesting. I haven't quite figured out what that is, but I mean, the chaos lands are definitely special. And then you have these resources that also are fragmented across the other lands, while still maintaining the rarity aspect. But it's almost like you kind of hit a jackpot almost if you got one of the void resources or the chaos resources on your random non-chaos land. So I don't know. It's something to look into. Obviously, like if you were like looking for a floor land, like is 4 ETH still too expensive? Probably. I don't know if I would spend 4 ETH on one point of or one tier of void at the current moment. But I do find it interesting that is the case for these resources. So I don't know. I'd keep an eye on it. What was some of the other ones? Omni, I think, was one. Okay, 3.3. Still kind of expensive, but Degradia. Let's see here. 3.75. Okay, Degradia and Entropy. Yeah, I mean, so you still can't get them for cheap, that's for sure. If these dipped down low, I would be very interested in picking them up because it's almost like you get exposure to a chaos land without owning a chaos land. Like what's seems like a win to me. So, but anyways, I won't bore you with all that. There's a bunch of stuff to unpack here. There's a bunch of resources. I highly suggest you do your research before buying a land. Double check the resources. See if it's rare. See if it's common, or if there's maybe something in the ballpark that you could maybe do a slight upgrade and get something that's more rare. Another thing that I will point out is what is it called? Rarity Sniper, I think. Rarity Sniper for... I should have already had this up. Rarity Sniper. If you go and you search, like, I don't know, you could search, like, top 25,000. Usually, what that does for you, and then if you sort from price low to high, it'll usually kind of pick out some of the lands that have a rare resource that you may not have noticed. So like here, this is relatively close to the floor. It's got a pretty high rarity ranking, and I can almost guarantee you it's because of this southern, what is that, Moss Moon or whatever it's called. So that's just kind of like my secret little trick if you're trying to find something that's more rare when you're shopping for like the floor. Come in here and put like top 50,000, like if you're going to buy something at the floor, you may as well buy something that's got something more rare to it than just being a barren land. I mean, 50,000 is kind of the cutoff that I use. I think you could push it to like 65 too. You're still probably going to find some interesting things in here. But that's not, those are in this this bog land, those are nothing special. So maybe not. I don't know. I like to keep it 50,000 and below when I'm searching for stuff. And then it kind of helps just track what's going on. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully this helped and showed you a little bit of something about some resources that you may not have known. I'm excited to get on to this next trip where we have the codex, which I think will hopefully provide us some more clarity on, this manufacturing process. I haven't looked into this too much either, but the other thing too is we do have manufacturing tools. Okay, I don't know. I might make another video on some other things around artifacts because I think that has a lot of potential as well. But yeah, so if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, leave me a comment. If you've got questions, go ahead and just drop them down below. Happy to try and answer them or make a whole nother video on a topic if I totally just blew over something and just confused the audience further. But yeah, I appreciate you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.